Hello there, my friends inside the screen. I am Ashley Celine Shelley, but you can refer to me as the Ashhole. Oh, damn TMJ. Today, on Father's Day, no less, even though I'm cutting it pretty close with almost midnight, you get to hear me ramble on and on about my love of the Disney cult classic animated film Atlantis, the Lost Empire. Since I do not speak to my own parents anymore, I got permission from Gary Trousdale, the director and co-writer of the film, to give him a shout out in my video. I do not know Kirk Wise, the other co-director and co-writer, and I got sick of the Facebook group that is essentially a cult, which worships Tab Murphy, who is the main screenwriter. Plus, I was no longer able to be friends with Tab Murphy after I made a new account 2 years ago and got locked out of my old account, so such it is as it is. I also feel morally and ethically inclined to mention the other two people because appropriately cited credit is extremely important in the writing and film industries, and I do not wish to disrespect anyone who made my childhood bearable. Anyway, without further ado, happy Father's Day to Gary Trousdale, Tab Murphy, and Kirk Wise. You gentlemen more than likely raised my generation of millennials to Gen Z better than a lot of our own parents did. Most of whom suck. A lot. Gary Trousdale is awesome because not only did he largely contribute to a lot of our childhoods, but he's also an inspiration to remain grounded amid the impact he has had on a lot of our lives. We start the film with young Kira Nedok, or Kira Gagash Nedok. I don't know where Nedok comes from, but I found it on the fandom wiki page, so. Princess of Atlantis and her two parents, the king and queen. The Atlanteans are under attack, specifically Poseidon himself, if I understand correctly. Cute little Kira is too preoccupied by the look-alike dolly she dropped that she is shocked and horrified when her mother is beamed away by the heart of Atlantis aliens, or whatever. Her father somehow knows that the beam of light would blind little Kira if she looked at it, so, like a good father, he shielded her eyes. But still, he could not resist gazing at his beautiful wife one last time. She was the last thing he saw before he himself became blind for over 8,000 years. We find Milo Thatch, an absolutely autistic-coded early 30s nerd in 1914 Washington, D.C., who reads books and dreams of adventure. How many other Disney animated movies have similar protagonists? Quasimodo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, or if you're from the South, Notre Dame. Jane Porter from Tarzan, Ariel from The Little Mermaid. I mean, it would be Ariel if she had books in the ocean, which would make sense, but yeah. Belle from Beauty and the Beast. Do you know who contributed to 3 out of 4 of these other films? That's right, you guessed it, Gary Trousdale. Tab Murphy was a big deal for The Hunchback of Notre Dame and Tarzan as the screenwriter, too, just to give credit where credit is due. I also have about 4 small posters signed by Tab Murphy. One of them is whatever you call the little picture that I put into the video. I don't know tech words. I'll figure it out later and then feel stupid about it. Milo was special to me because, along with Phoebe and Paige from Charmed, getting me interested in the career fields of psychology and social work, which is probably never going to happen at this point, Milo got me fascinated by anthropology. He is an expert in both linguistic anthropology and cultural anthropology, and although he is vastly overeducated for the job he has in the boiler room at the museum, he keeps a positive attitude until he hits the last straw with his boss taking him for granted. Mr. Harcourt changed a presentation to 1 hour earlier that Milo was supposed to conduct, and he notified Milo last minute on purpose. I respect Milo's readiness with a letter of resignation when he decided to quit on the spot. It shows that Milo was tired of wasting his talents, likely for a while, and this was the kick in the nards that he needed to enact self-respect. Yes, I did say nards. You hear scratching on the walls? That's not a ghosty, that's just my cat. Yeah. Her name is Mrs. Katie. A picture of Milo's grandfather is on a shrine in his workspace, and his grandfather, Thaddeus Thatch, looks remarkably similar to Archimedes Q. Porter, Jane's father from Tarzan. I am not contributing to some conspiracy theory about Anna and Elsa from Frozen being Tarzan's sisters, or Milo being Tarzan's brother, but I will say that blood relations are, of some sort, are not a far-off hypothesis. The sexy Helga Sinclair, who was definitely a bisexual awakening for me, along with Audrey Ramirez and adult Kita, breaking into Milo's apartment was pretty hilarious. I liked how her and Mr. Preston Whitmore conducted everything, tied up every loose end, and even gave Milo's cat Fluffy a new home, all just to give Milo his dream, which was originally Thaddeus Thatch's dream. The team that Mr. Whitmore assembles for the exploration and excavation crew are certainly an unusual set of people. The French geologist Gaetan Moliere being the weirdest, the Italian demolitions expert Vincenzo Santorini being the funniest with dark humor. His humor is pretty explosive. Dr. Joshua Sweet being fantastic representation of half black and half indigenous. The Latina mechanic from Michigan, Audrey Rocio Ramirez. Mrs. Packard, who is old and does almost nothing. Then there is the evil venture capitalist, or adventure capitalist, I don't know what the word is. Commander Lyle Tiberius Wark, with his second in command, Helga Sinclair. Jebediah Allardyce Farnsworth, or Cookie, as was his nickname, was the second most useless crew member. He was the cook, and his meals were so disgusting that everyone probably lost 20 pounds from avoiding his food altogether. Much to Cookie's disagreement, beans, bacon, whiskey, and lard are not the 4 basic food groups. He did appear to be allergic to vegetables and seasoning, which is not really good for the white person stereotype. This movie is truly a perfect Father's Day cartoon film because Milo's grandfather had to step up as his legal guardian after his parents died, likely before he was old enough to remember them or miss them. Thaddeus Thatch left him the legacy of his own searches for Atlantis, along with the Shepherd's Journal itself. Milo, in turn, takes on this adventure of a lifetime to prove not only that he is worth more than a crummy job in a museum boiler room, but also to honor his grandfather/surrogate father. If there would ever be a live-action adaptation of this animated film, I would want one of 3 handsome, buff, black male actors to play Dr. Joshua Sweet. Either Terry Crews, D.B. Woodside, or Mike Coulter. If anybody forgets who Mike Coulter is, it's Luke Cage. I recall D.B. Woodside mostly from the show Lucifer and also Buffy, the last season of Buffy. I know that live actions incite a lot of anger from Disney fans, but at least half of them have panned out well. Plus, if the original writing and directing crew returned for it, you know, not whoever was running the weird sequel to Atlantis. Plus, James Cameron, the writer of the 2 Avatar movies, the movie would not be able to fail. On IMDb, Atlantis Lost Empire was given a 6.9 out of 10. While I am sad that it did not do well when it was originally released and the sequel was a major flop, since it was meant to be a TV show, the immature side of me is laughing on the inside over the 69 implication. While this movie is not specifically Bible or theology related, it does bring up Leviathan and the Great Flood. I am a believer in Jesus Christ, believe it or not. But I accept the Bible as mythology and allegory, since I am learning as an adult that that most, if not all, of the Bible is historically a lie. Milo being in his early 30s but not knowing how to drive stick shift, or possibly he does not know how to drive at all, makes me feel better about being an almost 29-year-old who does not drive and never will. My husband is okay with me being an eternal passenger princess. I'm getting a little older, so I guess I'm passenger queen. Some people are better at academia while others are better at actually useful adult skills. I'm good at neither, so let's hope that I can be successful at being an average adult and hopefully getting a college degree at some point when I can afford it. A little teardrop comes over me every time the crew stops treating Milo like a loser and they include him during their mealtime, even if it is disgusting. Honestly, Cookie's food kind of looks like what I imagine prison food is. Mushy. When they bond with him and tell him their stories and dreams, it really makes me feel like he's one of them. At least until they all reveal that they were willing to commit genocide against the Atlanteans for a payday, but they switched moral alignments once they witnessed Rourke beating up Milo for trying to be a hero. So lining? My favorite scenes are when Milo and Kira are bonding and Kira tells Milo her full name, not her surname, which is available on Fandom Wiki only, but the full version of Kira. She says her name is Kiragagash, and like the average white male American, he asks for a shortened nickname. That's not a slight at anyone, let alone Americans or white people, because I'm a white American. But it's simply just a fact. Milo also mansplained 2 or 3 times in the movie. Once to Audrey for how he fixed one of her mechanic's machine vehicles. Once to Kita when they were both figuring out the Atlantean hover cars for the first time, and he said, "You should get credit just for getting this far." She did not like that. I don't think he meant anything by either of these instances. He was just excited to finally be useful for once and be treated like an intellectual authority. I also thought it was cute how Milo found out that Kita is 8,700 years old, and he hit on her saying, "Looking good." Before later in the evening saying, "I swim, pretty girl." Like the biggest weeb ever. One thing that bugs me about fans is that they love nitpicking. Especially Disney movies, oh my god. I love calling out racists and racism, but it is crazy to me that white-haired magical society with melanin is somehow controversial. It makes perfect sense that a magical society would stand out in some way compared to average Africans or Greeks or whatever ethnicity Atlanteans would fall under. Maybe just call them Afro-Greeks? The Atlanteans also appear to be Polynesian, so maybe they have root ethnic ties to all three. Kira, Milo, Rourke, and Helga in the burial chamber of the previous rulers, powered by the heart of Atlantis, is reminiscent of Jesus walking on water, and that is exactly what Kira is doing while in her freaky possessed trance. Makes me sick that Rourke and Helga were willing to not only commit genocide, but were also planning to take crystallized Kira as a trophy to sell. I hate Rourke for his venture capitalism or adventure capitalism, whatever the hell he said. But his comment regarding Darwin's natural selection angers me because it is something that bullies love to quote as social Darwinism, an excuse for the big and strong to prey on the small and weak. One thing that Milo is not, however, is weak in the heart. He has such a big heart to match his intelligence. His speech about compassion really made a difference in convincing his fellow crewmates to do the right thing and save Kira and Atlantis. I love the rescue sequence because Milo not only teaches the Atlanteans and his crew how to operate the hovercar fish things, but he gives Kira the credit for showing him how to use it instead of glory hogging. Helga blowing up the getaway balloon that Rourke was on it. God, I can't speak. Helga blowing up the getaway balloon that Rourke was on was exactly what he deserved after he betrayed her and pushed her over. She was still almost as evil as him, but I'm happy that with her final breath, she took him down with her. Rourke turning into a total Spider-Man or Batman villain from Atlantean crystal contamination was awesome. He went psycho before dying himself, and honestly, the bad guy simply dying as a villain instead of getting a redemption arc was excellent writing. Nowadays, many movies are obsessed with redemption arcs. I love them, but only when they are deserved. Once upon a time, the ABC TV show had that theme, and it bothered me so much. Crystal Kira is one of the coolest superhero montages because her powers command the Atlantean Stone Guardians to make a force field that protects against the lava, which is being hurled at the city thanks to Rourke causing the volcano to erupt. The Stone Guardians look an awful lot like the Iron Giant, which is such a great nod to another excellent movie. Treasure Planet and Road to El Dorado are definitely on the list of best adventure and Discovery animated films besides Atlantis. I think it's sweet that Audrey is presumably the new Meowther, Fluffy, Milo's cat, but if I could never see my cat again, I would be sad. I am bummed that Milo sent back his only picture of his grandfather with an Atlantean crystal necklace to Mr. Whitmore, but I suppose he has a new family with Kira to fill that void. Still, kitty. I'm tearing up a little at the last scene where Milo and Kira send off the dead king's body in the floating coffin, since Leonard Nimoy, the voice of the late king, died in 2015. Oh man, that's emotional. Anyway, those are all my thoughts, YouTube. I hope you enjoyed my rantings, and happy Father's Day. One last thing, I really wanted to show off my poster. Look how cute this is. It says, Ashley, Atlantis is waiting. Signed, Tab Movie. Also, I found one of my dresses that hides most of my body fat, so I'm happy. Also, Atlantean crystal necklace that I got on Etsy. Alright, I'm done bragging.